afternoon. I have closed a number of investigations involving allegations of wrongdoing against the President, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, Minister of Public Enterprises, Mr. Godan, former Minister of Finance, Mr. Tito Mboweni, and former leader of the opposition, Mr. Mmusi Maimane, the Public Investment Corporation, and the Land Bank, among other respondents. In summary, the respondents were alleged to have failed to uphold the Constitution, breached the Executive Ethics Code, engaged in maladministration and improper conduct, violated the Code of Ethical Conduct and Disclosure of Members' Interest for the National Assembly and Permanent Council members, or unduly benefited from public business transactions. I have closed these investigations on various grounds, including there was insufficient evidence to substantiate the allegations. Some of the issues are pending before the courts, or that preliminary investigations have confirmed that some of these matters fell outside of our jurisdiction. In the first case, a maladministration and improper conduct were alleged in relation of the failure by Minister Godan or a duly appointed representative to ensure that the National Ports Authority was incorporated as a company as envisaged by the National Ports Authority Act, NPAA. A complaint in this regard was received on 6 May from 2019 from Mr. D. Skepas. The office has since learned that the matter is currently the subject of litigation before the High Court. Accordingly, I have decided to allow the judicial process to take its course and for the court to make a competent pronouncement on the matter. In any event, this office will by law be bound by the court decision. Therefore, the investigation has been closed. Second, I investigated the allegations of a violation of the Code of Ethical Conduct and Disclosure of Members' Interests for a National Assembly and Permanent Council members by Mr. Maimane. The leader of the Hindu Unity Movement, Mr. Bachu, alleged on 11 October 2019 that Mr. Maimane misled Parliament and violated the code by declaring in its register of members' interest a property valued approximately 4 million located in the suburb of Claremont in Cape Town as his own, when the house belonged to a shelf company owned by businessman Wessel Jacobs. He also requested an investigation into whether Mr. Maimane financially benefited from the former Chief Executive Officer of Steinhoff International Holdings, Mr. Marcus Jooste, and whether Mr. Maimane owned a Toyota Fortuner Sport Utility Vehicle SUV donated by Steinhoff. I launched a preliminary investigation, at the end of which I closed the matter on the basis that the office is precluded from investigating the matter, as it did not fall within the ambit of the breach of the code. Mr. Maimane resigned as a Member of Parliament in October 2019. In addition, the matter did not fall within the Public Protector's jurisdiction as envisaged in Section 182 and 239A and B of the Constitution, read with Sections 64, 65, and 67 of the Public Protector Act 1994. This is to say, Mr. Maimane was not performing a public function in any of state departments nor administrative functions in the national, provincial, and local spheres of government. Third, I investigated allegations that Minister Godan interfered with the recruitment process of the CEO of Mango Airlines. The investigation followed a complaint lodged on 28 October 2019 in terms of Section 4, Subsection 1 of EMIA by Chief Whip of the Economic Freedom Fighters, Mr. Nyiko Shivambu, MP, who alleged that in interfering, the minister acted in violation of the Executive Ethics Code 2000. The allegation, Minister Gordhan's involvement in the recruitment process of the CEO of Mango Airlines was in violation of the Constitution and the Executive Members' Ethics Code, could not be corroborated. On this basis, the investigation was closed. Fourth, I investigated allegations that the former Minister Mboweni irregularly appointed Mr. Ranjeni Munisami to the position of the Community Outreach Officer. This investigation too followed a complaint lodged by Mr. Shivambu on the 27th of October 2020, who alleged that in appointing Ms. Munisami, Mr. Mboweni acted in violation of the Executive Ethics Code 2000. Mr. Shivambu requested an investigation into whether Ms. Munisami's appointment was made in terms of Section 9 of the Public Service Act 1994, read with Regulation 66 of the Public Service Regulations of 2016, irrespective of the position she occupied, in respect of the position she occupied. He also requested that the Public Protector establish whether it was acceptable and rational for Executive Authority to appoint Ms. Munisami to such a sensitive position when there was undisputed evidence submitted to the Judicial Commission of Inquiry into allegations of state capture that Ms. Munisami received illegal money from the State Security Fund. The allegations that the former Minister Mboweni irregularly appointed Ms. Munisami to the position of the Community Outreach Officer and thereby violated the Executive Ethics Code could not be substantiated since he complied with the relevant prescripts. Former Minister Mboweni resigned as a member of cabinet before the Public Protector could issue the final report, and therefore the President can no longer take action against him as envisaged in the Executive Members Ethics Act, actually, because there's no findings as well. Lastly, Mr. Shivambu did not make further submissions in response to the discretionary notice that was issued to him in terms of Rule 42, Subsection 1 of the Public Protector Rules. On these grounds, I closed the investigation. Fifth, I investigated allegations of impropriety in the approval of a loan application made by a private company called Afric Oil by the PIC. The investigation was prompted by a complaint by Mr. Nathaniel Denton Bricknell, the Secretary General of the African Democratic Change. Mr. Bricknell requested an investigation into what was widely reported in the media in June 2018 that Dr. Zweli Mkhize, in his capacity as the then Treasurer General of the ANC, benefited from a loan transaction to the value of 210 million between Afric Oil and the PIC. I found no evidence to support the allegation that Dr. Mkhize interfered in the PIC's process and procedures in his capacity as Treasurer General of the ANC during 2016, which led the PIC granting a 210 million loan to Afric Oil, and in so doing improperly received a payment for facilitating such loan. I accordingly am closing this investigation. Sixth, I investigated allegations of refusal by the Land Bank to conduct business with Mr. Mulule based on alleged false information that appeared in the media. The investigation followed Mr. Mulule's complaint, which was lodged with this office early in April 2019. He alleged that the Land Bank refused to conduct business with him without just cause. He further alleged that the Land Bank's decision in that regard was based on unverified media reports which related to illegal and fraudulent um, transactions involving him and his alleged associates. It has since come to the office's attention that the same issues raised by Mr. Mulule are the same as those in an application pending before the High Court. Accordingly, I have closed the investigation. The pursuance of the matter and remedial action that may be imposed should adverse findings be made from a further investigation will serve no judicious purpose on the basis that the matter is still pending before the High Court. Seventh, I investigated allegations of failure by President Ramaphosa to uphold the Constitution in that he failed to provide protection to whistleblower Mr. Thabiso Zulu, even though he had undertaken to do so. The investigation was brought about by Mr. Zulu, the complaint which he lodged with the Public Protector on 24th of April 2020. In the complaint, Mr. Zulu alleged that after an assassination attempt on his life on 26 October 2019, he spoke to the then Minister of State Security, Ms. Ayanda Dlodlo, who promised him that she was going to brief the president on his matter. Minister Dlodlo allegedly sent him a text message informing him that the president wanted to talk to him, and that Minister Dlodlo even called him again to inform him that the president was on the line. Mr. Zulu alleged that the president then promised him that he was to be taken to a place of safety and that he would be provided with protection. He allegedly received a text message from the then presidency spokesperson, Ms. Diko, informing him that the National Commissioner of SAPS, General Kehla Sithole, had deployed police protection for him at hospital, but that this was also not true, and that the president had, however, failed to provide him with security protection, despite having undertaken to do so. Based on the complaint and analysis of the documentation received, I've come to the conclusion that it would be improper to pursue the matter further and make any pronouncement on the allegation that the president failed to uphold the Constitution based on alleged promise he made to Mr. Zulu, as there's no evidence of such an undertaking. In the light of this, I closed the investigation. Eighth, I investigated allegations of failure by the City of Ekurhuleni Metropolitan Municipality to collect refuse in the Captain Park area, resulting in an unhygienic build-up of refuse, putting community members at risk. The investigation followed a complaint lodged on 30 August 2019 by Mr. Mike Waters, the Gauteng chairperson of the Democratic Alliance Party and MP. I concluded the allegations raised by Mr. Waters that the city failed to ensure uninterrupted refuse removal services in the Kempton Park area, resulting in an unhygienic build-up of refuse, putting the community at risk. This was substantiated. This was based on evidence obtained during the investigation, particularly the admission by the city that there were challenges in the provision of waste management services and or refuse removal in the in and around Kempton Park area due to the breakdown of waste removal trucks. I've taken cognizance of the fact that the city has implemented an action plan by purchasing extra refuse removal trucks and distributing them around Eguruleni depots to address these deficiencies confirmed by the inspection in loco. The city ensured that the trucks were properly maintained or serviced and or implemented the action plan sooner, the interruption of refuse removal services to the communities of Kempton Park would not have occurred. I recommended that the city manager timeously commence the procurement process prior to the cessation of this contract to ensure the sustainable provision of refuse removal services in the Kempton Park area without any interruptions. The city manager must also ensure that the waste removal trucks and other equipment associated with the sustainable provision of these services are properly maintained and serviced as required, and that any outsourced services are properly monitored and managed. The investigation is closed since we've issued in this instance an advisory report. Thank you.